Well, welcome. If I could encourage you to find a seat, we want to give Robynn and her gang as much time as possible. When I asked Robynn if she would come and share a little bit of her experience with having a liver transplant, she said yes. And then it just ballooned into getting together a band and all kinds of stuff. So we're excited to hear from Robynn. Welcome to Keys, and it's going to be November soon. Do you believe it? There's a lot of sign-ups in the hallway for things that are coming up, and I think we've got some exciting things. We have the Cox family, part of the Cox family singers, who are going to be here for our Christmas party. So we're excited to have them with us in December. And then the other thing that you need to be planning on is a trip to the Holocaust Museum. I think it's November 22nd. That's right before Thanksgiving. And we'll have a shuttle from here. It's an early start, though. The tour begins, I believe, either 9:30 or 10 o'clock. And that means you're going to have to get up early for that. And I know how many of you love to get up early and get ready and get moving. And then we'll find a good restaurant to go out to lunch together if you want to do that. But glad to have all of you here today. And again, I don't want to take a whole lot of time here because I want Robynn to have as much time as possible. You realize that these folks get hangry around noon. So thank you for being here. I'll let you introduce everybody else who's with you. Does everybody know Robynn? Robynn works in our communications. She does a lot of graphics. I believe that on a Friday when she had her surgery for her transplant, we were meeting and we prayed for her. Thank you. And we tried to track with her through this whole ordeal. And here she is. She's with us today, and we're excited to hear from her. Thank you for being here, Robynn.
Thank you, guys. And yes, usually I'm standing behind you doing the sound for you in the live stream. So I'm so glad to see the front of your faces instead of the back of your heads today. So I do have a story to share. It's a story of my life with God, and He has been a part of my life since I was baptized as a baby, but the way that it has flourished in the past few years. So I'm going to look up at the band and say, are we ready, or do I need to chat for a second? They're all hanging out behind you right now. Are we ready to go, guys? Okay, so we're going to play some music for you first, just to kind of get you into my world as it was from the time I was 13. I went on the road professionally at the age of 14 and went through college and graduated college. I've got some pictures I'll show you, but music was my life all the way until about 4 or 5 years ago when I had to take a step back. And you will find out why. Spoiler alert, I lived. So now my whole entire life is a series of bonus days to glorify the Lord. And so we're going to do that today for you with some music first. Anybody ever heard of Billie Holiday? This is one of her songs called God Bless the Child. That's Travis Davis on the piano. Them that's got shall have, them that's not shall lose. So the Bible says, and it still is news. Mama may have, and Papa he may have, but God bless that child who's got his own, that's got his own. All the strong get more, while the weak ones fade. Empty pockets they don't ever make the grade. Mama may have, and Papa he may have, but God bless that child who's got his own, that's got his own. Oh, money, you got lots of friends, and they're scattered around your door. But when you're gone, and that spending ends, no, they won't come around no more. Rich relations give crust of bread and such. You can take what's yours, but don't you take too much. Mama may have, and Papa he may have, but God bless that child who's got his own, that's got his own. God bless that child. Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, that's Hank Cherry here on the guitar. Right behind me, Mr. Edwin Stevens. We've got Callan Brown over here on the drums, and our guest piano player, Mr. Travis Davis. Yeah, give them a big round of applause. to begin? I lived a very full life. I was raised in East Texas. Hey, Edwin, can you get it to show on that back screen too for me? You're my hero. I was raised in East Texas in a small town, the daughter of a police officer and at-home accountant. Hi, Mom and Dad. And a brother, a very cool brother who's about 5 years older than me. And my dad was, as like I said, a police officer, so it was kind of a stoic upbringing. And somehow when I went to college, I wanted to continue playing. I started in high school playing with some band directors every week at a restaurant called, the Mandarin restaurant in Beaumont, Texas. So I play every week, a 14-year-old holding this bass trombone, learning how to play. And you figure out how to not step in the holes. And so my entire learning outside of the classroom and the marching band was this jazz band. So I went on to become a professional. I went to LSU for a couple years, 98 through 2000, go Tigers. I got you, Bob. And then I moved up to Boston in 2000, and I had this little basement apartment, and I went to Berklee College of Music. That's Berklee with 2 E's, not EY. The EY one's out in California. Berklee College of Music at that time was largely jazz. Today it's more contemporary pop and rock. But I got a great education there. I went with a full ride, full scholarship. Being a female on bass trombone was kind of this, like a unicorn. We didn't really exist a lot back then. But now there are many, and that's a beautiful thing. So I went on the road very young with Berklee. For a minute, when I graduated, I went over to do video game development. So my first job right out of high school was being a bug tester for karaoke video games. It's called Karaoke Revolution. And then I became the assistant producer for Karaoke Revolution Party when it merged with Dance Dance Revolution. My last gig there was Guitar Hero. You may have heard of it. I was the technical requirements consultant for that, meaning I dealt with copyrights and trademark law. I dealt with protocols for Sony and Nintendo and Xbox. And then Berklee came a knocking. Hey, we want you to come back and teach for us. And so I took music any day over music video games because I was just close enough that I wasn't getting to play music. So I went back over to Berklee and played, and they're the ones that put me on the road. Let's see if I can figure this thing out. Yeah. So this is me teaching in Brazil. I went over to Brazil to teach every year for, probably 7 years. We'd do a summer program there. I taught theory, I taught trombone. And we had a house jazz band that played, and there we are again on the stage, playing trombone, largely with that, not bass trombone anymore. I switched to trombone, and by the way, Joe asked me about this. This was my professor, my mentor at Berklee. It was his trombone, Con 8H, made specially for him, so it's one of a kind, and it looks not as pretty as you might think, but it's a beautiful, beautiful horn, and I'll never restore it because with every dent, it is perfect. So that's me with that horn up there. The next one, here I am teaching now. When I was at Berklee, I got to be bi-coastal. So I would go out 1 week a month, and I would teach with the Monterey Jazz Festival, and I was in that house ensemble as well. So this is me teaching another theory course. And let's see, next one. There I am conducting a big band for them, and here I am playing in Puerto Rico. And so this is during a show. This is actually you can tell this is the camera. You can see the cardboard box. This is the camera people, and so this was their monitor. That's actually on that one, I was playing bass trombone. If you notice on my thumb and my fingers, I've got little triggers there. So that's a different instrument than this one. Now this one is the one that's up there now. So that's Donna McElroy and the other monitor, an amazing singer. So I spent my time on the road a lot, and the reason I'm telling you this is because this is sort of where it all started for me. It started in a good way, and it started in a very bad way regarding my habits, because being on the road every night, you are eating out and drinking often with your friends and your coworkers, largely men. And this is me, and I was the NPR United States ambassador for Swing in Europe Big Band, and this is us in BBC studios recording an album and on the road. So I was playing a solo there for that, and it was just mayhem every night. You drink all night long, and then you get up at 6 a.m. and start the next day, usually drinking. So I'm not going to hide anything that happened when I was younger. This was all part of it. This is me when I moved back to Texas. I was coaching a vocal ensemble. This is the Christmas ensemble at SeaWorld. I did that for a few years. This is me playing tuba. This is where I fractured my back in a couple of places. This is Six Flags playing tuba. And then this is the rodeo playing tuba. And if you look right behind me, let's see right here. I can't get it to work. That's Travis. That's my piano player. Travis and I have been playing together for a very long time. So then Six Flags going the wrong way. Let's switch back here. That's me playing with a German band named Terry Kavanaugh. That was a big thing that I did for about 5 years here. I played bass, I played trombone, I played euphonium. There I am doing the chicken dance. Yeah, ribbons and pigtails and everything. I'm a little bit of a ham on the stage, as you can tell. But, you know, it doesn't help that I had probably a few shots at that point. They would bring you on these German bands, they would bring you a test tube with a shot in it, so you couldn't set it down. Didn't have any edges on it, so you'd take it and throw it back at them. Here I am playing the Alpine horn at Wurstfest. Yeah, it's a big horn. It was fun to play. I own one. If anybody's looking for one, it's on sale. Here I am singing and doing the electric slide of all things. So it was a fun mixed match. Now here's where we get to my story. Let me back up and I'll tell you what that is in just a moment. So I come to work here, I finally get hired, I try for months and months and months, and I call and I'm beating on the door and I'm like, guys, you want me. I send them my resume, I call Hank and Edwin, and I'm like, you know, I can send you anything you want. I really want this job. I had been working 5 years part-time as a media person out in New Braunfels for a church there that I really enjoyed. It was part-time though, so I knew that I was being called by God to do something more. And so I finally did land this position in June of 23. And I knew at that time that I had a hernia. Remember that big old tuba I had on my back? I had gotten a hernia right here, so it kind of looked like a turtle shell. But over the next couple of months, there was bigger problems. I didn't have insurance yet, so I was waiting. I was like, I'm gonna get this hernia taken care of. Once my insurance kicks in, everything will be fine. But I felt like my hernia was growing. It was growing. I had to stop playing for a little while, and I went to Walgreens to get a compression wrap so that I could continue working here with the physical things that I needed to do. And so I'd wear a compression wrap, and I went and got another one, and I spoke with the pharmacist over at Walgreens at Vance Jackson and Hebner. His name's Ricky. Hi, Ricky. And that man is one of the people that saved my life. God spoke through him, and he said, look, hernias aren't going to grow. Something is wrong. Now, to get a little personal, it was also at this time that my body stopped producing any sort of waste except for blood. I was losing massive amounts of blood. And so I sat down with Hank and with Janet, hey, and I let them know what was going on, that, you know, I was concerned, and, you know, this didn't seem to be a hernia that was affecting everything, or it had burst through and was affecting my bladder, my kidneys, everything. So Janet took me into the ER over at Metro, and Hank was my first visitor over there. I was so beat up because my red blood cells were breaking apart, that anytime they would poke me, I would have bruises. I have a permanent bruise, actually, that will never go away right there. So things were starting to fail in my body. And what they knew at that point was that my kidneys were infected and failing. Not enough for dialysis. They thought they could recover it. So they put me on massive amounts of antibiotics, did a paracentesis, which is what this is. Oh, this. That is the amount of liquid that they pulled from my belly. Yeah, that is 7 quarts, I think. 7 liters, 7 liters. That was pulled out of my belly more than one time. So I would go away and swell. So you have 4 reasons that kind of thing happens. It's called ascites: kidney failure, heart failure, liver failure, or malnutrition. You may see on those commercials where the little babies in the third world countries have really big bellies. That's the same thing. It's that liquid. So that would happen to me overnight. it would look like I was 9 months pregnant. And then I would be deflated like a balloon and then, have to go back to the hospital several times over and over. I would work from the hospital during this time. This was June, July, and August. And I went to 4 different hospitals and never figured out what was wrong with my kidneys, but they gave me massive amounts of Cipro, an antibiotic. I ended up at the Texan over on I-10 near Callahan, which was actually a great hospital. My insurance was kicking in by this point, and so they kept me. Instead of catch and release, they kept me and admitted me. And I stayed for 2 weeks at this point, and a nurse that was traveling through, not usually assigned there, came in and worked with me during the day, and I asked him, I don't understand why they keep changing my medicine every day. I get a different doctor every day, they keep changing my medicine. And he says, you're gonna die here. You're gonna die here. He said, you need to ask for a transfer over to the Methodist Specialty and Transplant Center. Now, folks, think about this for a minute. I went through 4 Methodist hospitals. Not one person told me about this place, because I had not advocated for myself at that point. I hadn't said, why? What is going on? And so by 2 a.m. that next morning, I was in the specialty and transplant place. So that nurse saved my life in that way. They found out that what was going on with my kidneys was actually MRSA. I got MRSA in my kidneys, in my bladder, and it was bad. They also, at that point, they ran a whole gamut of tests to find out what all was going on, and they finally looked at my liver enzymes and did an ultrasound of my liver, found out that I was in full cirrhosis as well. So chicken, egg, we're not sure now because of the order of operations of being in the hospital, but things were awry. Pardon me, I need to get some water. So I did a few things. I met with a dietitian that would help me understand the things that I was eating and how it was contributing, because what was happening was my sodium in my blood was plummeting, which was causing me to become unstable. Now, it meant that if I ate sodium, it would drive that number even lower, which is so backwards if you think about it. But drinking water, you're so thirsty, right? And then you eat some sodium because you feel so drugged down, like you need to replenish your electrolytes. And it actually ends up being the worst thing that you can do. So I need to kind of ask you guys, because for me, I never knew what the word cirrhosis meant. So I just kind of want to be interactive for a second and ask you guys, what happens when you have a cirrhotic liver? Tell me something that may happen to your body. The liver does die, right? We have fatty liver. At fatty liver, at that point, you can still reverse it. At cirrhosis, your cells cannot regenerate. Your liver is an organ that will regenerate completely. If you cut it in half, it's like a worm. It will grow back, okay? What else will happen when you have cirrhosis? Jaundice, yes, you turn yellow, your eyes turn yellow, which happened to me very, very, very much. I looked like an albino Oompa Loompa for a while there. What else happens with cirrhosis? That's exactly how I was, right? But let me tell you, your liver controls everything. It controls everything. It controls your red blood cell production. It controls your white cell for your immunity. I had no immune system. My liver was literally chomping up my red blood cells, so I could not clot anymore. I had no clotting factor in my blood. So over time, as I went in and out from late August, after I left the liver and transplant center, I went home for a few months, and I was fine. Totally thinking that I could live with that liver for the next 10 years. That's what they were hoping for. And I made it okay until November. November, I got really sick again, and I mean really sick. I went in. It got to be where my stomach was so swollen I couldn't roll over. I couldn't turn over. I was like a turtle upside down, like couldn't get out of bed. And so I went in, and they did a paracentesis and let me go. And then the next morning, I had to call into work. I'm like, I just came out of the hospital, and I have to go right back in. So they had to do another paracentesis, and they decided they were going to keep me. And so from November 30th until December, I thought I was going to spend Christmas in the hospital. December 15th, I was in the hospital. I had hit my head on New Year's Eve, if you can see a big old goose egg. I had a black eye, random. So again, I had no clotting factor. So things would just randomly happen to me. I would have a black eye. I would have bruises on my arms. This was my Christmas room. And then I got COVID in the hospital. Yeah, so I was diagnosed with COVID on December 15th, which meant that I was not going to be able to go and see anyone for Christmas. And so I stayed, and then they released me, and if you look, you might recognize a few of those people, Janet and her husband, and if you look, that's Sweet Bob Eskenazi over there on your left, and then Miss Becky and her family, and there were many people. Sarah and his wife were there, and they sang me Christmas carols as I stood and watched from my door and videoed them. I actually do have a video of them. And it was so touching because I didn't have to spend Christmas alone. And I want you to know that throughout this entire journey, it was this love of God manifesting through all of you that kept me going. I was never sad about it. I had done some of it to myself, and some of it was just part of life. And I never felt pain from the thought of dying because you guys were lifting me up and reminding me where I was going to go, who I was going to be with, and that every moment, every time something happened, God had me. It didn't matter. And so I was sick, and I was laughing and smiling and enjoying the visits that I had with each of you. And let me tell you, it meant everything when you'd come and see me. And a lot of you did. A lot of you sent cards. A lot of you did calls to me. A lot of you said hi through other people, and it meant everything. I cannot tell you the magic that this church brings to people as we unite around them and show God's love. So I must say that in this discussion, which is kind of the theme of why I'm here in front of you today. You all saved me with God, God's army of prayers. Through you, you were my champions, and I could not wait to get back here. It was all I could think about, but I had to go through what I had to go through to get there. And so this was me on the day of my surgery. Actually, this was a picture my brother took and sent to sweet Lindsay and Corinda, who were there in the waiting room, waiting to sit with my brother. So I'm giving them a thumbs up. Hey, I'm good. Now, what you should know is this was on February 2nd, Groundhog Day, and I was down to the minute of whether I was going to live through this or not. On January 19th, I went into the hospital. Actually, I went into my kidney clinic with just a checkup. Told them I wasn't feeling great. By this point, I was on a cane. I was not walking around very well. My left leg kind of gave out. By December 28th, I was paralyzed on my left side. And then it started to come back after we did some medication and some therapy kind of stuff. But I was on a cane still because it wasn't very good. So I went into my my kidney doctors, and they said, you know, you don't look good. You've gained 20 pounds again. Like, I'm going to call the liver guy, and let's see if we can get you in. And because I was going to come back to work the next day, so that's kind of what the checkup was for. And I didn't want to come back and then have to leave you guys again. So they called the liver guy, and they said, yep, let's get her in. And I went in, and within 2 hours, they told me I was in full kidney failure, and I had 2 weeks to live. I was on the transplant list. I was number 2 in the South States. This is divided, the country's divided up into 4 quadrants for UNOS. I was number 2 on the list. I came in with what is called, does anybody know what a MELD score is? It's a measurement of your end of life, end stage liver disease. And the highest it goes is 40. Most people who are healthy and non-fatty liver, you will have a 6, somewhere around there. Mine was 39 at that point because I had hit my head, remember, over Christmas. That was encephalopathy. I had brain damage, literally, because the ammonia had built up in my blood so much, and I couldn't purge it out, that I was out of my mind. I was screaming and yelling and telling jokes and didn't know. I barely remember some of this. So by the time I got there on the 19th, they told me I had 2 weeks to live. And then the army of you guys really, really banded together. And there was one night that Edwin and I were visiting. It always felt like there were a lot of people in my room, but it never was. It was because I was kind of delirious. Edwin and I were visiting, and I think, Sarah, were you there too that night where I had trouble focusing? Edwin was staring and talking to me about something, and I was full out hallucinating. I saw dragons flying over his head. It's not lying. I would lay in my bed and have conversations with people that I thought were there that weren't. Nurses, maybe, for a little while, and then I'd kind of, oh, there's no one in this room with me. Conversations with my mom, who's still alive, and she wasn't there. And so I knew I was delusional. I knew I was sick. I knew I couldn't focus. I couldn't think. Things were bad, but I was still in a great mood because I got to see you guys. I got to hang out. I got to get phone calls from you. And you brought God into my room every single time. I never felt scared. Not even going into the operating room. We were still telling jokes and laughing because I wasn't afraid. If I died, I was saved. I was going to heaven. If I lived, my work was going to be the work of God for the rest of my life. Right? So how can you lose? So here's one more. Hi. I'm kind of a ham all the time. It's me. This is right after surgery. So if you notice on my left side right here, I still have a scar. That was what they called a Big Mac. I was bleeding so much because of my poor coagulation in my blood that they had emergency jugular right to my heart. Emergency blood drops, and they had to give me 10 units of blood. So part of this, what I want to talk to you about is the number of blood transfusions that I had going through this process. There were many. I would have blood transfusion during the day and nosebleed at night, and it was gone. Blood transfusion during the day, I would have a paper cut, and it was gone. And it sounds really ridiculous, but my blood was like water. I would have a paper cut here and end up having to reprint all of our Sunday bulletins. I can tell you then I had a couple meltdowns because of frustration. I was not happy those days. So my blood was like water. And so if you look at my left eye, there was no cough, there was no vomiting, there was nothing that caused this to happen, just blood not coagulating in my body, and it went to my eye. By the time I went in for surgery, it was completely occluded. I looked like a Halloween costume. So on my right side, if you look, I have the port for dialysis. I was on dialysis at that point. Most people have dialysis Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. I was going in 6 days a week. In between the actual dialysis, they did what's called a puff, and that was so that they could get some liquid off of my body. My legs were the size of tree trunks, both of them. It was amazing. I've never seen anything like it. I'd look down at my legs and I was locked in my bed with an alarm. There was no way I could get out on my own. I couldn't waddle wherever I needed to go. Let's see what else we got here. And this is me on my first day back at work with you guys. So from this to this, that is God. Ladies and gentlemen, that is nothing but God. A person had to die, and that is the saddest part about the story, but this person decided to be a gift in their death and saved I don't know how many people, and I hope to one day meet them. And the prayers for that family abounded after that, because that person saved my life, and I promise you, at the time, I felt like I didn't deserve it. In fact, a lot of the times I would pray that God would just take me so I could have some peace. But I need you to know that I don't think I felt worth before this experience. I had to go through this experience to feel like I deserved that liver, that I will live and honor it every single day, that I will love the family that let it happen. I will love each and every one of you harder than I could possibly imagine, because you made me feel the love of God more deeply than I had ever felt. And that is a testimony that I will give every second that I can. So thank you guys so much. Thank you for listening to my story. And I want to see if you guys have any questions for me. She asked me, how is it different now? There's several things that are different. Number one, thank you for asking that. I can tell you today, right now at 45, I feel better than I've ever felt in my entire life. In my whole life. I feel healthier, happier. My body feels better. I'm sober. And I didn't have to have any sort of rehab or anything. I do want you to know that. So I just stopped it. I just stopped being stupid. You know? Sorry to put it like that, but it's truly that. I was old enough to know better, too young to care kind of thing, but you know, now I get it. I do have self-worth. I do owe God so much. I owe God my life. I owe God to honor him for giving me all the gifts that he gave me, even before this transplant, but especially because he said to me, you're still here for a reason. And so I will find that reason. I will continue to search for that reason every day. And if it's nothing but to give people hope and to tell you to advocate for yourself, always be an advocate for yourself. And please, please consider donating blood. Because were it not for those people that do, I wouldn't have made it to the surgery. I wouldn't have made it through the surgery. So please, please donate blood. Any other questions? Going once? Going twice? Amen. Well, I'm going to invite the band back up. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you for hearing my story. The Lord is good. I'm going to invite the band back up, and we're gonna glorify God again through music and the gifts and the talents that he gave us, and we offer to you. So thank you again for listening to my story. And, it means a lot to be able to share it. So. All right, the next song we're going to play you might recognize. Ray Charles did it. It's called Georgia on My Mind. Sorry. One, two, three. Georgia, Georgia, the whole day through comes as sweet and clear as moonlight through the pines. I said, now Georgia, Georgia, oh, oh, Georgia, a song of you comes as sweet and clear as moonlight through those pines. Other arms reach out to me, other eyes smile tenderly. Still in peaceful dreams I see that road that leads back to you. Georgia, 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 Georgia. Georgia on my mind. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Travis Davis. Other eyes reach out to me. Other smiles smile tenderly. Still, oh, still in peaceful dreams I see that road that leads back to you. Georgia, 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 oh, Georgia. No peace I find, yeah, just an old sweet song. Thank you guys so much. I'm going to turn it back to Pastor Joe now. Thank you guys very much. Appreciate it. Again, that's Hank Cherry, Edwin Stevens, Callan Brown, and Travis Davis. Thank you guys. Thank you.
Hello. Yeah, there it is. You know, I didn't know what to expect. I just knew that I needed to ask Robynn to come and share with us. And I'm blown away. Way beyond my expectations. And just thank you for the team that you brought with you and just for sharing a really intimate piece of your life with us today. And that's special. And we are privileged to have been a part of praying for you. And I know I visited you in the hospital there and got lost in there.
And went through the rain.
Because you can never find the right door to go in that hospital. And we're just so glad because we were sure that you weren't going to make it because they kept telling you that. And we prayed. And this is an answer to our prayers and many other prayers, others praying. And so, just so happy to have you with us today. Let me pray. Father, we're thankful for the power and authority that you have through Christ's death and resurrection to be victorious and to bring life again and to bring healing. And we thank you for Robynn. We're thankful for what you have accomplished in her life, through her life, for the lessons that you have taught her, for the faithfulness that you have given to her. And we just lift her up to you and pray for continued healing and direction. Thank you that she's back with us. Thank you for the talents. She's demonstrating some new ones today to me for sure. And I just pray that you would be with her, guide her, and direct her. And we're so privileged and thankful to have her with us today. We ask your blessing on the rest of our time together as we share around these tables. Give us sweet fellowship. Give us a great time of mealtime, and pray that you would bless the food, bless those who prepared it, bless those who will be serving it, and pray that you would give us sweet fellowship as we share in this together. Thank you for who you are. Thank you for your power and authority in our lives. And thank you that we can trust you. And thank you to be witnesses of this miracle in Robynn's life. We give this all to you and pray for your grace and peace and truth in our lives. In Jesus' name, amen. I hope that some of the band members will